Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Melanie Cain, and I am Santa Clara Public Degree Apache. I'm originally from New Mexico. I am working with the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health, and I am a licensed psychologist and also a veteran of the United States Air Force. So I will be presenting today on how our program, the American Indian Counseling Center, which is within Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health, has adapted to life after COVID and clinical interventions after COVID, and also how we have incorporated the cultural. So the objectives, what I am intending and hoping to accomplish today, are to share more about why we need cultural integration in a westernized mental health system, ways that we were able to connect with culture in our work, and also how this promotes mental health overall. So the American Indian Counseling Center is one of the 85 directly operated mental health programs within the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health. Our mission within DMH is hope, recovery, and well-being. And I do believe that our program is one of the only county funded programs for Native Americans, like solely that's our that's where we generate our revenue and are able to serve our clients. And this is just on the, I guess, right hand side is the front of our building, and then our Department of Mental Health building, which is brand new. Is but we could just see that it's very, very structural, very Western, it's a drab building, I would say. So how do we, incorporate culture and make it a place where people want to come and seek help and get well? So our program was founded in the late 80s after community members within Los Angeles County and one of the former organizations, which was American Indians Children's Council, Dr. Rose Wiaki, Dr. Carrie Johnson, and a couple of other people advocated for the need for a mental health program specifically for natives. And we serve the native population within LA County, and we cover the whole county. So I don't know if any of you have ever been to Los Angeles, but it's huge. So we see clients everywhere. We provide field-based services, and we really work to find staff who are either native or have worked with natives or have lived with natives, have some type of understanding and experience with the population, because it's so important in our work. And our goal is to support client balance and well-being by really just placing culture in the forefront of treatment. And here is one of our COVID pictures. We were able to have a drive-through event for, I believe it was November. So this was before everything shut down, but this is us in the medical system. Also, this image right here is an image that one of our clients designed, incorporating the 4 elements: fire, earth, air, and water. And again, this just really shows how we've used clients to come up with a design to promote the culture. And these are just 2 examples of that. So COVID-19, I know in the title, the title says post-COVID. We're still in COVID, it's still an issue. However, in March of this year, the emergency order within Los Angeles County ended, which meant that we no longer were required to wear masks. We no longer had to see clients in more of our virtual spaces. We were able to bring people in and reconnect. And so prior to COVID, you know, there were very strict protocols regarding masks, quarantine if you were ill or if you were exposed. We were teleworking, and this was also the introduction of telework, which was something that our department and probably the whole country just kind of struggled with, right, getting started. So this meant that in addition to us kind of seeing people in person only on an emergency basis, it also meant that there were no community gatherings, there were no powwows, there were no opportunities for people to really get together. We didn't have any minimal in-person groups, and a lot of our services moved toward technology and seeing people on VC. And some of the emotional consequences, you know, we all experience is anxiety, grief at the loss of, you know, people dying, our communities dying, and feeling disconnected. A lot of our clients, a lot of us felt disconnected, right? We were in our homes, we weren't able to be with friends and family. And so this, you know, this affected all of us. So we as clinical providers are, you know, we get into this field to help and to serve, and then we kind of have to, we're dealing with our own stuff, right, with COVID. So that is just kind of the context. So why is it important to look at mental health and Native people? You know, we know that 1/3 of our population is Native, and about 19–20% report having a mental illness, and this can mean anxiety, this can mean depression, this can mean bipolar disorder. There's a myriad of diagnoses. We have you know, 573 recognized tribes, and I know a lot of tribes are fighting for recognition. And 70% of our population lives in urban areas, and within Los Angeles, we have a lot of tribal diversity and representation because, you know, people came to LA for relocation or just life, right? And the big city, people want to go to Los Angeles. And so I appreciate being able to be here because we do serve all of the community. You know, although there are Los Angeles-based tribes, we serve everyone because everyone is in Los Angeles. And so within our communities, although we do have resilience and strength, and as our presenter this morning said, you know, like high rates of abstinence with alcohol use, we do also have high rates of trauma, substance use, and suicide. And this is due to the history of colonialism and experiences of oppression. So this is just to kind of understand, and when we do have maybe distress, we're more likely to probably go to a relative, go to a traditional healer. We're going to go to someone we know rather than say, oh, I'm going to go to counseling or I'm going to go sign up with the county because, right, we're, you know, I'm sure we've all, there's a bias, right? Like, I'm not crazy either. I'm not going to go talk to these people about my issues. So this is even more within the Native community. And a lot of our, you know, healing is linked to ceremonial prayer. But again, given the context of being in the city, you know, there's different levels of cultural identification and connection. So we have people who are in LA who are Native, but maybe they've never grown up in their traditions, or maybe they have, but if they lived in Los Angeles and their home is in New Mexico, like mine, it's like I can't always go home and when I need to. So that's the other purpose our program serves, is we provide a community and a place for our clients. And we do see clients who self-identify, so we don't require a CIB, which again is important because a lot of Natives might be there, maybe never had an opportunity to enroll, or maybe their tribe wouldn't allow them to enroll, but they're still Native. And we do provide multiple services, so therapy, case management, we have psychiatrists, we've had clients volunteer, community volunteers, training of MSWs and mental health clinicians, and we serve all age groups. So we have a psychologist who specializes in the birth to 5 population, all the way to our full service partnership program, which is located in Hollywood, which is for more of our intensive need population and again, just substance abuse treatment. And so this is my just kind of how I was conceptualizing everything, you know, at the heart of what we do as Native people, and you know, within our program is really look at culture and community as our basis. That's our center, that's our core. And then we have, you know, our programs, right? All the different programs within our clinic, and we are wanting to serve our community with the cultural framework. But then we have these competing entities, right? The Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health is a huge department. The priority is direct service and timeliness of progress notes and getting people housed, which is needed, right? But it doesn't necessarily coincide with culture. And then we have our Western modalities, which again don't necessarily coincide with culture. And then Medi-Cal, Medicare requirements, right? We can't bill for traditional healers. We can't bill for, you know, maybe we have a meeting group, right? We have to really be creative in how we write our progress note because we can't say we had a meeting group. So these are just the, I guess, opposing forces, I would say, within our work. So some of the ways that we have worked to really modify our services are to, we have to get really creative. So we do have a client advisory board, which helps inform our programming. We were able to get our tribal information into the electronic record system. So that means that, you know, that data can be pulled up to say, okay, well, how many Native people do we have being served in Los Angeles County? Also really looking at the nuts and bolts and how do we, as a program, provide our clinical interventions. And then really working to get more of the traditional practitioners in, which is, which has been a challenge, I would say. So we've relied a lot on what we as staff may know how to do. But again, we're mental health professionals, right? We're not necessarily cultural professionals or experts. So our client advisory board is run by our clients. And again, this group has informed our practice, our procedures. It has given our clients an opportunity to become involved, to take leadership roles. There is like people can be the president of the CAB, they could be the treasurer. So it gives people an opportunity to take a leadership role, to reconnect. This is one of the ways we get clients who are maybe isolated, we get them involved in the clinic. And one of our activities, which unfortunately died out like during COVID, but this was our garden. So our CAB was able to get us just really push for us being able to create a garden. So this was one of our events that we've had, and we also have an opportunity for CAB members to become volunteers with the department, to become wellness outreach workers, which means they can help us, or they can help clients, maybe accompany them to a medical appointment or make phone calls and, hey, Eric, are you coming to group today? Or Ellery, haven't seen you. You know, those are some of the things that our wild workers are able to do. And looking at tribal information, you know, our electronic record system looks at everything. And we as a group in our program, you know, said we need tribal identity. It needs to be included. And so in order for these types of changes to occur, you know, we as a program talked about this and discussed the importance of this. And then it involves us kind of going, there's a hierarchy, right? So going to my supervisor, going to our electronic record system council, which meets, and basically all they talk about is electronic records, and justifying why we need this information in our system. And this was also presented to our underserved cultural committee, which is within DMH, which is composed of community stakeholders within the Native American community. So we presented it to them as well to kind of, you know, get their approval or maybe address any concerns. And the USET also has different committees, not just for Native people, but for the Asian community, the Armenian community. So that's one thing that the department is doing. And really the whole point of this is to just be able to acknowledge and help create trust during our sessions, right? Being able, when you are in a Native clinic, you know, one of the first questions I've been asked by clients is, are you Native and where are you from? You know, and we have to be able to have those conversations, and we have to be able to get our clients to talk about them, and acknowledging them, you know, on one of the forums is important. So some of the nuts and bolts and ways that we have also acknowledged culture is really just looking at the, you know, understanding that having Native people within the workplace just helps, again, create trust, enhance mental health outcomes, understanding that we walk in two worlds. And so we might have people who observe their practices, and then, you know, we also have a Western clinic. So if your session's at 10, I'm waiting for you at 10 o'clock, which is sometimes conflicting, right, in our worldviews, but that's how we operate. So for other ways that we've incorporated cultures, using drums for different events and opening our events with land acknowledgements and blessings, and really prioritizing the Tongva, who are the original peoples of Los Angeles County. Some of our cultural integration meetings, these were started with, we work with Dr. Daniel Dickerson, and he's a researcher and he's very into culture, and he was able to come on board, and he really helped push the cultural piece. You know, we need to talk about this. We need to make it happen and create structure within our program. So we've had these meetings for several years now. We meet on a monthly basis. Our goal is really to get all staff involved in the clinic, all staff meaning maybe the clerk who checks clients in, maybe our psychiatrist, everyone, even our clients, and to talk about, okay, what can we do with culture, and how can we incorporate that into our work? So we have everything that you see that I've already talked about was discussed in these meetings. And we've also developed our own trainings for our own staff, because although we are Native, you know, it is good to be trained on different interventions, different perspectives, and because we also train other people, and not all of our staff are Native, we want to share so that our staff understand what it means to work with the Native population. And this is also, again, just help develop protocol in any of our events. We also look at the medicine wheel. This is one of our handouts, which is given to clients when they first come in, and it's really focused on balance. So what are you doing now that is keeping you in balance, and how can we, you know, as a service provider, help you find balance? So this is one of the things that we do use, and we always kind of give it to clients, and where are you and what do you need to do? And we also, you know, look at it even as our own in our workflows and just different things that we do. So we've also provided client surveys. This is an example of a survey which is in progress. We still need to share, but we have given client surveys before. We ask clients, what type of interventions do you want? What is important to you? And a lot of them said that they really wanted to learn more about their culture and connect with their culture, because we're an urban area. So that might differ from, let's say, giving that survey to someone in Santa Clara. So the results of this survey is really going to be used to guide interventions and activities. And this is another one we want to give after the emergency order of COVID, because we've also found that although clients say they want activities and they want groups, it's hard now to get people into the clinic because we're so used to being virtual. And also within LA County, it's huge. So some people have a hard time getting into the clinic. So some of what we've needed to do is have hybrid groups. So maybe kind of like what we're doing here, having a group and then it's on Zoom so that everyone can be involved. Some of our other groups and activities, we have a really successful cooking group, which does take place virtually. Our staff cook at home, and then they get their groceries, and then they deliver them to clients, and then everyone kind of logs into Teams to talk and cook at the same time. We also now have positive Indian parenting, which is a parenting class, and again, we kind of gone back and forth with virtual or in person and healthy relationship groups. So these are just some examples of what we've done. And we've also done, again, with the assistance of Dr. Dickerson, look at research, because we are a precious resource, like county clinic serving the Native population. How do we share this information, right? I know research sometimes has a negative connotation. However, it's also our opportunity to share the data with the world, and it is done by natives, for natives, with an understanding of what it means to even share this information. So one of the articles that we have published is looking at, we just looked at our client list, and we wanted to know, how many people have particular diagnoses. We looked at smoking and homelessness, and so our clients have high rates of homelessness and high rates of tobacco use. And again, this data is really used just to share and explain what's going on in LA County. We have another article which is in review, which was looking at the garden. We had focus groups because we're working to develop an intervention looking at gardening, traditional interventions, and how it can help with mental health and how it can also help with diabetes. So we have an article in review, which is looking at the focus groups that we held with clients, providers, and community members to share with them what our idea was and to see, what do they think and how will this work. And so once this is prior to our emergency order lifting, we said, okay, we need to get our clients back in the clinic, because again, a lot of people don't want to come in, maybe they're scared, maybe they have a hard time. So we held our first annual open house, and we had approximately 75 participants, which is pretty big considering, sometimes for a group we might have maybe 5 people. So we were really happy. We had, and again, the whole point of this was really just to reconnect. We had clients who had never met their provider in person, maybe only done virtual sessions, maybe only done phone sessions. We had our clients, they were able to see each other and just reconnect with one another. We had raffles. 2 of our staff they're really talented, and they drum and they sing. So we had an opportunity to share the songs with them, and then we had Indian tacos. And I know there's some people like, that's not healthy or that's colonial food, but it's something we like to eat. So and again, it was really just an opportunity to reconnect. So this was one of the ways that we've pushed toward that. We also had our mental health fair, which was middle of May, and this was in collaboration with Take Action, which is our Mental Health Services Act, which provided funding for the event. So again, our events, we're in a larger system. So looking at, the external, there was a resource, so that trickled down. So we were able to use those resources to have this event, to hire Native vendors, and really, again, with the purposes of renewal and wellness, and how do we renew as a community? How do we connect? Again, the last time we had our mental health event was in 2019. So it was 4 years because COVID hit, and then we would have other ones online. But this was our community event, and it was about promoting culture and really just looking at, one of our other managers asked me, he said, well, I don't know how this, what does this have to do with mental health, basically, we had Native performers, and like, it's all related. Like if you dance or if you drum or you sing, you kind of have to be in a good space. connection with community that gives us strength. That, you know, we have clients come in who, again, were really anxious, and so it's like, okay, you know, you work with them months in advance. Our mental health event is coming up. We want you there, you know. So these clients, it was a really big step for people to be there. And we were also able to honor and recognize our clients who had done good work. You know, some of them maybe were more consistent in their care. They were showing up on time. They stopped missing sessions. Some of them got jobs. Some of them got degrees. So we really wanted to just acknowledge everyone. And our, you know, our manager said, go big, right? We have an opportunity. There's funding, go big. So we did. And this was funded by Cal Mesa, which is one of the funders within Los Angeles. And MHSA funding is based on a millionaire's tax. So within California, all of the millionaires have to give, I believe, 1% of their tax and 1% of their income, and that money goes to fund our MHSA services within the department. Here's an example of just some of the work that we did. We did have native traditional dancers, but we also, you know, we had our event in East Los Angeles, Belvedere Park. So we want to celebrate all cultures. We had a political group who performed for us. We had native traditional dancers who performed for us. Our staff were able to put up the teepee, even though it's United American Indian Involvement's teepee. One of our staff has connections. And so again, just putting up the teepee is a process, and it's a process, you know, for staff to connect and to do something, and also, you know, do something together, common goal. And we had storytelling in the teepee, and then on the top right, one of our supervisors, our Los Angeles County is run, I would say, or heavily influenced by our board of supervisors. And so our board of supervisors, you know, look at what's going on, and they set the priorities. And when they set the priorities, those are basically the assignments that we get within the department. And so Hilda Solis is one of our supervisors, and she was present at our event, and all of us on stage, we're all veterans. So she acknowledged us as veterans, and we opened up the ceremony with the drum. We what we've done prior is have our own grand entry, but because of the way that the park was arranged, we couldn't do that, but we had a drum song, and so all of us veterans were called in the front of everyone, and they sang a song. It was an honor song, and it was like, whoa, like keep it together, you know. But we were honored on stage. So, and again, that's a big deal, because our board of supervisors need to know what the Native community is doing, and they need to know what's going on. So maybe one day that's one of their priorities too. And this is this was the last one we had in 2019. So this is our staff dressed in regalia. We ask everyone to dress in your cultural attire, you know, so we can represent. And we had, you know, our drum groups, dancers, and again, just really the opportunity to connect and get together. Also, one of the things I was able to do within the last month was do a ribbon skirt workshop, which again, I know that this stuff is done in other programs. However, for us, it was challenging. We've been wanting to do this, but it was challenging just to get funds to be able to pay someone to come in and teach us. So with the Cal Mesa funding, we were able to hire someone to come in and teach our clients how to make the skirt. And we talked about the purpose of the skirt, and it was really neat also because in the group, we were able to talk about how the activity connected people with their culture and also different experiences. You know, one of our attendees, their parent was adopted, and so they weren't able, when they did go back to the reservation, they were almost shunned, you know, and they weren't able to learn about their culture. Or I shared, and I had another person in there who was Pueblo, and I shared, well, I can't learn anything if I'm not there when it happens, because if I'm not there when it happens and I go and try to ask, it's like, well, you're not here, or you know, like you get yelled at. So it's like, so we welcome these opportunities because not everyone has that. And let's see, okay, and then in June, our next event was an LGBTQ2S awareness walk. And this was in support of our LGBT community and in collaboration with Willow Springs Park, which is a park in Long Beach, California, one of the staff there is really big on native plants and stewardship to the land, and really works with us to provide the space to be able to share this with our clients. And this is the agenda. Here's some pictures. So they had a pretty big turnout, and again, they just talked about the native plants, how people could connect. They had some journaling on just what it meant to get out and walk. And this is Blanca Diaz, our trusted staff member at Willow Springs Park. And so she's very eager to work with us and to share her resources with us. So this is one of the activities we were able to do post-COVID, which again, prior to March 31st, there was a real big, it was difficult to do these things, right? Because it was like, we don't want people to get sick. And so once the order was lifted, we had a little more freedom. So this is what we've done. Hopefully I haven't gotten anything, but this is an ongoing work in progress. You know, we've been doing this for years, and one thing that I want to share is that even though we have these activities, we're still operating within that Western mental health system. And so it is a challenge sometimes because the systems don't match. They don't necessarily work well together. So that's been one of our priorities, you know, as staff, is how can we continue to improve culture into the work that we do. Thank you. Are there any questions, thoughts, comments?
I have a question. You and Dr. Dickerson, do you guys ever collaborate with UIOs or tribal nations to work on like their cultural plans or
No, we haven't. To do research, we have a human subjects committee, and so within our department, we have to basically it's institutional review board and get to make sure, you know, in the process of research we're not harming anyone.
Yeah.
We have to go through that within the department. We have to get our chiefs permission. We have to get our directors. So, and although that might sound easy, it's not always easy. You know, we have our chiefs, all chiefs, but they're busy. And so even just like, hey, I sent you an email, you've had it for 2 weeks, you know, can you please sign this? It's that kind of thing. So, but I think that would be an area, you know, for growth.
I think so as well, because a lot of like the programming we do, it's very focused on tribal nation work, which is super important, but at the same time recognizing that like a huge percentage of Native Americans are in urban communities. So how do we integrate that to like make, I guess, make like the community aware before they go to urban areas that there's support there, or else when they come home, they can still integrate all this great programming into the work that they do, or just their realized. But yeah, that was great.
I know it's such a blessing to have him, you know. I don't know if you've ever read his research. He's done a lot of research on drumming and really, you know, on motivational interviewing. And so he has been a big push, you know, and sometimes I'm okay, leave me alone. Just because again, there's so many other demands, you know, there's just so many other demands with our population. But you know, he has been a big part of it, and it is important. This is why our program exists.
Couple questions. So I noticed on some of the materials that you showed that it's, your organization name, but it doesn't have county of LA, right? And so I assume that's a strategic decision because that way the government structure doesn't pop out and, distrust.
Well, it is, I mean, we are American Indian Counseling Center, but we are part of the DMH. And so a lot of our clinics our directly operated clinics, like we have Roy Ball Family Center or San Antonio Family Center, we've kind of taken out like the mental health center because it does scare people away. And even we do have to talk about that even with clients that we are part of an institution, and even when you walk in our door, there's a guard, on guard, you have to go to metal detector. There's all these things that I understand are there for purpose, but they, when you're coming in for help, it can be, I don't know, a deterrent. Go ahead.
So what you were talking about, and like one of your colleagues who wasn't native asking, like, well, what does this have to do with mental health? It reminded me of the talk this morning, kind of mapping out, we're doing a fishing project or a sewing project, and kind of like how that maps onto behavioral health and like how we build that. And I wonder to what extent that you have had to do that mapping, or if you're sort of in the process of doing it, or
I think well, there's two answers to that. I did gather information from staff because I said, those of you, because we had people do stage fun and we had people do dancing, drumming, singing. I asked them, like, what does this mean to you and how does it relate to your mental health? Because I want to share that with our clients, because in my mind it was obvious, but it's not obvious to everyone else. And so that's one of the projects that I'm working on, but in terms of mapping it out, it's always mapping it out, explaining to our director why we want to do outreach to connect with the community, or explaining to our director that we want to do events in the evening when people can gather, and maybe not during the day, but then there's different constraints. So it's constant explaining and mapping out.
I have a question to follow up on what you just shared. What other challenges, I guess, did you guys encounter when it came to prepare for these events? Especially, I think you said one event you hadn't had for about 4 years since 2019. So what challenges did you guys encounter, or what challenges did you overcome when it came to engaging the community and really mapping out your events?
I think our community was ready for this event. Some of the challenges, I think this event was, one of the blessings that we did have was funding, right? And we were able to kind of get native food vendors. So we had someone who made Indian tacos, we had someone who made native stews, another person who made native type of food for our clients. And we were able to pay people to come in and drum and dance and sing. But the challenge is our event was, well, TMI, but our event was in May, and our vendors, some of them just got paid like within the last week. So that's a challenge, because people might say, well, I don't want to work with you guys, am I going to get paid? That's a challenge. And before Cal Mesa, we would have to do fundraisers, because we want to at least provide an honorarium for someone who comes and shares their gifts with us. And so we would do our own fundraisers to raise money. So we kind of put our pennies together and like, all right, I'll pay for this guy, or I'll, to make these things happen. And I don't think that the department really understood what that meant. And I think other challenges, I don't know, I feel like our staff really work together. Sometimes we've had, I don't know, just trying to get everyone together to do a project, and sometimes challenging. But I don't know, I think this year went pretty smooth, other than that.
So you found that the community was ready and prepared for these types of activities and to really take in what you guys have put in.
Yes, some of them did share that they would have liked the event closer to the clinic or in another area because again, it's such a large county, you know, people have to maybe take the bus or the train to get there and it's not always easy. So that was some of the feedback we got. And again, some of the other feedback we got was to like what you shared, like map it out and share that with our attendees in the process, like, okay, we're drumming, and one of the ways that drumming helps us is, you know, it's been shown to, like Dr. Dickerson did his research, I think it's been shown to like slow the heart rate, you know, it's been shown to help with sobriety, to share these things in process rather than after.
Is it on your cultural advisory board?
Yeah,
Did you guys have to recruit for that, or did people volunteer for the community?
well, our client advisory board is made up of our clients.
Yes.
We have had to recruit because, you know, we have a new supervisor and he's saying, well, there's only, you know, nobody attended or there's 2 or 3 people. And I'm like, you need to call people, you need to go down the client list and you need to say, we're gonna have a client advisory board meeting. Do you want to be a part of this? Which sounds easy, but then when you sit down and you've got 20 other phone calls coming your way, it's hard to do things like that. But I have really, you know, worked with staff to engage, and our clients also, they do some of the recruiting for us, right? So we're like, hey, come to this, come to this, come to this. So yeah, we have had to recruit, but people also want to be a part of it.
Awesome. Well, Melanie, thank you so much for your presentation. This was great. On behalf of USET, I'd like to give you a little speaker gift
Thank you.
to take with you. Does anybody else have any questions before we break this session? Okay, awesome. Well, we're gonna go through a brief break right now where you guys can go and get whatever you need, and then we'll start with the next round of sessions in just a couple minutes. So enjoy your break and we'll reconvene soon.